listening to Headspace on 103.2 Dublin City FM, the series looking at mental health in Ireland, where we're still discussing obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. We now move on to looking at ways of dealing with and managing the condition.
It's as simple as that. Could I say, time is the cure? Give it time.
God, no.
No, definitely not. I think anybody that says give it time lives in a bit of a dream world, because it's like you, Jerry, you're living in a dream world there. I think OCD is one of those things that you have to attack head on. As I said earlier to Gillian, it's just a bully. And we know how to deal with bullies. You can't run away from a bully, and you can't give it time, because often it will just come back at you all the time. We've certainly at St. Patrick's in the program that I work in have seen tremendous success with clients that have turned around and faced the bully head on and almost say, well, you know, I'm fighting you, and I'm fighting you with everything I've got. And certainly with patients that I've been seeing for individual therapy as well as in group therapy, there has been huge successes with OCD. We follow the exposure response prevention approach, which sounds very difficult, but it basically means that you expose yourself to the thought and that you are not doing what you want to do. So you are preventing the response, which is I'm not washing my hands, I'm not using the tissue like Gillian is talking about, and just allowing the thought to become less sticky as time goes on. We obviously are not going to start with the most difficult thing at the beginning. So we'll start with maybe dropping the tissue. The next time we will say, touch the door handle. The next time we will say, don't wash your hands. And then the next time we will say, touch the loo. And then then touch the loo and go and have lunch. And I know people are going to say, oh my word, I'm not going there.
Well, my point is, if somebody has one or two obsessions, I'll call them, that's fine. So you work on one, the contamination one, we'll say, you work on that, and then you move on to the second one. Or am I being simplistic? Is there a whole myriad of other obsessions waiting to spring forth? Or is it normally people have two or three little areas and we tackle them one at a time, or how does it go?
Okay, good question. I find in my experience, OCD takes a lot of different forms over a lot of different years. And so the type of therapy that Debbie was just describing, we call it cognitive behavioral therapy, or the other way of putting it is CBT, which is the hot therapy at the moment. There's been a lot about it in the press. There's some really good work happening in some areas. And this is about tackling it head on. But as I warn my clients, the skills I'm teaching them now are the skills they're going to have to keep applying over and over and over again when the OCD takes a new form. I remember I had a client, we were at our last session, he walks in and he just looked so bum, and he said, I have a new form of OCD. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you 3 weeks. We put together a little bit of a plan. You know, we reviewed all the skills and all the techniques, put together a plan. I said, I'll meet you for one last session in 3 weeks. He said, are you sure it's only going to be one? I went, oh yeah, I have full confidence. I met him one time and I've never heard from him again, because in those 3 weeks he had dealt successfully with this new form of OCD that had popped up. And I know this particular individual is going to keep on doing it over and over and over again. The key thing is to remember, it's just a thought. You know, you can call it a false message, a faulty wire in your brain. I mean, however you want to label it. You have to acknowledge it, because when we ignore it, and I know Debbie's been saying this as well, it gets us into trouble. I always say it's like OCD comes to the door, knocks on the door and says, can you come out and play? And I say, you're going to have to open the door and say, look, I know you're here. I can't come out and play. Really sorry. I'm going to go back in and do something positive for myself.
Gillian, does that sound doable to you?
It does. Well, I suppose in my personal experience, I was asked by someone in St. Pat's of where my OCD had come from, and it was amazing because a lot of OCD sufferers that I got to know through OCD Ireland, they all had very specific dates, and like as if they had a diary log of, well, I got it at 7 and I got it at 10, and this is the type of OCD I had then, and this is the type of OCD I have now. And I felt a little bit bizarre. I felt a little bit strange, because I really couldn't specify when I got OCD. And I felt a compulsion nearly to nearly be able to list off, you know, my history of OCD. But I do know that I was always a bit of a perfectionist when it came to handwriting and keeping things orderly in school. And I was very much, I didn't want to lose anything at home when I was a small child, and I lost very important things belonging to me, like jewellery. And when you experience something like that, you know, you lose something that's very, very important to you, you then get a little bit more precise with yourself. And that's when that's when the door is open to OCD into your life, because you're more precise with yourself, and you're trying to be more careful and cautious, and you can't mind every scrap of piece of paper, but you try to do that. And that's when the obsession comes in. You become obsessed even with your possessions, let's say, or you become obsessed with not harming others, because you experienced something that, you know, gave you that, I suppose, anxious feeling or, you know, ill feeling in your life, and you're trying not to experience that again. And that's my own personal experience. But I went from trying to mind everything that I had to contamination was a major thing for me, and most recently, you know, checking was a major thing for me, and it hindered my employment so much that I actually had to stay at work late. I wasn't meant to. Health and safety would get my manager sacked and me sacked as well if they found out. I stayed extra hours trying to make up for time, because everything had an average handling time, emails, telephone calls. And one evening I stayed very, very late, and I was so tired. And I came in the next day and my boss said, "Are you taking the pee? You know, what are you doing here?" And I was like, I can't believe this. I've spent so many hours. Like, my average day finishes at 5 p.m. I went home at 10 p.m. risked my life going home, and you're questioning why I haven't done X amount of orders. I was so impressed. I was so chuffed. I was thinking he'd be so happy with this the next day. And I just broke down in tears, and I just said, this is it. I'm not going to bother anymore trying to hide that I have OCD. And I just said, I've OCD. And I thought he wouldn't know, but he actually had certain traits with himself. But in work culture, unfortunately, you know, money is a major important thing, performance is a major important thing. There isn't really much room for OCD in the workplace. So the major thing for me was to embrace it. And once I embraced it, once I was able to say, I have OCD, my own godmother didn't know I had it. And I was able to tell her I had OCD. And I was able to go into the local clinic, and I was able to say to doctors, I have OCD. They helped me. They gave me medication, and medication in a way increases your serotonin in your brain, gives you more positive feeling, and it enables you then to have that courage, have that extra bit of courage to try dropping the tissue or to try opening up the door, because you can't do it alone. I tried doing it without medication. I had an extreme fear of medication, but I had to embrace something to enable me to do what needs to be done, because it's not humanly possible on your own to overcome OCD. You need to embrace it, number one, and then you need to cooperate with the people that are willing to help you.
The OCD Ireland website is www.ocdireland.org. Also, in the top left-hand corner of our website, St. Pat's has an amazing helpline. It's manned by professionals, but they will tell people where to find help, where there's CBT therapists, where to find a psychiatrist or a GP who knows about it. People forget they're the consumers. You have a right to ask questions, and if you're not happy, you have a right to take your business elsewhere. But yeah, St. Pat's has good contact details too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Leslie. I'll reiterate that. We like to think that St. Pat's anxiety program is a centre of excellence and is the best program in the country. And the information and support line number is 01, it's a Dublin code, it's 249 333.
Trust me, even, you know, me as a sole practitioner, I've helped a lot of people. You know, the hospital there's other programs around the country, you know, the wonderful little pockets of help. Find it, avail of it, and go for it.
Thank you to our guests in this programme, Debbie van Tonder, Leslie Shoemaker and Gillian. For more information about this show or any of the shows in the series, contact ourselves at heather@dublincityfm.ie. You've been listening to Headspace, the 6-part radio series looking at mental health in Ireland. This series was produced and presented by Heather MacLeod and Jared Coonahan and made with the support of the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland. On next week's show we will be discussing schizophrenia. Tune in again next week here on 103.2 Dublin City FM on Wednesdays at 12:30pm, and you can also catch up with the rest of the series at www.headspace.podomatic.com.